Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today I'm gonna call myself out a little bit. Around this time of year, I love to watch all of the reactions to people's shelf-destruct lists. Where if you haven't heard of a shelf-destruct list, people will make a list of physical TBR books that they own, that if they don't read them within the year, that they have to unhaul them at the end of the year, or have some type of a punishment. You know, all videos are different, but I've really enjoyed the concept, but I've never gotten to participate myself because I don't have a large physical collection. I also don't have a large physical TBR. Most of the books I own, I have read. But I do like the idea of calling yourself out on books that you haven't read that you stated you would. And so I figured I would look at a couple of different things. I'm going to give you guys some categories of books that I told you I was going to read throughout the year that I am disappointed in myself that I didn't get to. And I'm hoping that by calling myself out at the end of this year, all of the books on this list will be read at the end of 2025. Or maybe sooner. We'll see, fingers crossed. But I think I'd like to reassess this video every year and see, one, if my categories change. So like I said, I'll tell you the categories in just a minute. Two, if this really does help hold me accountable for telling you that I am going to read certain books, because sometimes I feel like I get a little bit TBR happy and add things to my TBR that I either it's not that I don't have interest in them, but they don't hold my interest as much as some of the other books that I put on my TBR, or that I'm just adding too many and I can't get to all of them. And so I need to be pickier, I guess, about what I put on my TBR and the expectations that I have for myself. So that's what this video is about. Let's get started. So as I said, I do have some categories for you guys. I have separated the books that I have put on my TBR into 4 different types. And instead of listing them in the type, I have a lot of overlap in some of my lists. And so I figured I would create a logo for each of these categories that I'm sticking books in. And I will put the logo up on the screen. That way, if a book fits in multiple categories, you can see how many different things it's in. So the first category I have for you guys is series. As you know, I am a series reader. I am a habitual series reader, and I don't always finish the series that I start, and I would like to fix that in the future. And so I do have some series that I'm going to tell you guys about. This is the logo that will pop up on the screen if it is a series. I also have a physical TBR category, which is this logo. You'll be able to see that these are physical TBRs because I will hold the book up in front of you, but just because the rest of the categories had little cute logos, I wanted to make this one have a logo too. The next category I have is anticipated releases. If you've been following along, I did an anticipated releases video for each of the 4 seasons or 4 quarters, I guess I should say, not 4 seasons of 2024. And I absolutely love doing those videos. It's so fun to see what new releases are coming out, which ones I'm excited about. But each of those videos had like 30 books on it. And there's no way I was going to get to all of them, but there are a few that I'm a little bummed I didn't get to this year. And the last category that I have for you guys is my 24 in 2024 list that I gave at the very beginning of the year. Which of these books did I not get to that I should have, because I made the list in the beginning of the year? I want to talk to you guys about that as well. I have 20 books in total that I would like to call myself out for. The first 4 books, I will say though, are books I do have plans to read in November and December. Will I get them done? Fingers crossed, yes, but maybe not. I wanted to put them on this list just in case because I am filming this at the very end of November, so there is a chance that I won't get to them, but I do have plans to. The first of those is The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. I did pre-order this, and so I should be reading it because I don't pre-order very many books. This is the finale in the Bloodsworn saga, and I have absolutely loved this world. I am so ecstatic to continue, and I love the fact that John Gwynne puts in his, and I won't hold this up, but there is a page in the front of this book that explains the story previous, so you don't have to reread the other 2 books in order to feel comfortable going into this world again. There's also like a list of characters at the beginning, creatures that you need to know or you need to remember. I love the fact that John Gwynne gives me a cheat sheet because it does sometimes take me forever to get to his, well, not just his series, but series in general. And so I love the fact that he allows for me to have a little bit of a spark notes in front of his books before I get to them. But I am excited to get to this. This is a bucket list-a-thon book, so I should, in theory, get this done before December 15th. Will it happen, friends? Next is Wind and Truth, and out of the 4 books that I have plans to read, this is probably the one that I am least likely to complete before the end of the year. I want to start reading this on December 6th. Will I? Probably not, because I have some bucket list-a-thon things that I will need to complete. And it's 1,400 pages, so they are books, the Stormlight Archive are books that I like to take my time with. If you are unaware, the Wind and Truth is the 5th book in Stormlight, and I have read the first 4 already, so I am prepped and ready to go, but I like to take my time with them, so I'm not sure I will get this done in December, but I do want to. Next, I have The Teller of Small Fortunes, which this is a library book. I do not actually own this, but I am excited to get to it. I will be buddy reading this with Katie from I Would Rather Be Reading in actually one day is when we're supposed to start. So as long as our buddy read goes okay, this one should definitely be off of my TBR before the end of the year. But once again, since I hadn't started it and since things changed at the end of the year, I just wanted to put it on here to kind of make sure, push myself in the right direction that I am going to finish it. If you haven't heard of this book, you follow a fortune teller who has kind of gotten into the habit of not telling large fortunes, hence teller of small fortunes, because large fortunes tend to get her in trouble. And it ends up backfiring because something that she says to someone is actually a little bit alarming and ends up getting her involved in some kingdom dynamics that I don't really think she wants to be involved with. There's also, I think, a talking cat. I know that there's a cat in general because he's on the cover, but I think that he might talk as well, which I'm excited about. Last of the books that I do have plans to get to before the end of the year is The Burning Page. And this one, I'm almost 100% sure that I will get it done because I'm already 53% in. This is the 3rd book in the Invisible Library series that I've talked to you guys about in I think the last 2 videos. And so I'm not gonna go through this in extensive detail, but the Invisible Library series, you follow Irene, who is a librarian at the Invisible Library, where her job is to collect and protect books from different dimensions and bring them back to the library. There's a whole bunch of kingdom dynamics also, or dimension dynamics, involving dragons and fae and ghosts and vampires and werewolves, and it's oh so good. The next book is The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman, and this book is the prequel book to The Black Tongue Thief. I'm pretty sure it's prequel. It covers the Goblin War that is mentioned in The Black Tongue Thief. We actually get to see the events that are talked about in The Black Tongue Thief, and I'm really excited to get back into this world. I loved Christopher Buehlman's writing, and I haven't continued with any of his works, which is another thing that is a crying shame that I didn't actually pick up anything else by him in 2024. I will have to alleviate that in 2025. Speaking of authors that I didn't pick up, I cannot believe I did not pick up a Joe Abercrombie this year. I'm astounded. I loved the First Law trilogy, which I read in 2023, and I didn't pick up Best Served Cold. So Best Served Cold is going on this list. I can't believe that I didn't continue. Definitely something I have to do next year. I'm not actually sure what this book follows. I just know that it's in the First Law world, and I don't even know if it's set in the same time frame or if it's, past, present, future, whatever. But I'm excited to get back into Joe Abercrombie. Another author, since I'm on a roll, I might as well keep going. Another author that I didn't pick up this year was Robin Hobb. I have read the Farseer trilogy, the first Farseer trilogy, and I didn't continue on with Ship of Magic. I tried on audio and it just wasn't working for me, but I didn't get very far into it, and so I figured I would try again when I could get a physical copy of the book. I would like to read all of Realm of the Elderlings, but obviously I'm not making great progress. I honestly don't know what the Live Ship Trader series is about, so Ships of Magic is the first book in that series. I know that Farseer trilogy follows Fitz, and Live Ship Traders does not follow Fitz. It's actually supposed to follow multiple POVs, if I remember correctly, but I would like to get back into Robin Hobb's works as well in 2025. I also have Demon in White, which I'm pretty sure this was on my 24 in 2024. You will know because it will be in the logos that I will put up on the screen. But this book is the 3rd book in the Sun Eater series. I'm not sure how many books there are now. There's 6 or 7, and I don't know if the series is complete. I do want to read all of them, at least that's my goal. I loved The Empire of Silence, which was the first book in the series. It was my favorite book of 2021, and I finished Howling Dark. I don't know if that was this year, or if it was late last year, but when I tried to pick up Demon and White, I couldn't remember what was happening, and so I am going to reread the series. So this is eventually going to get read, but I'm going to have to wait until I read the first 2 again. I have absolutely loved hearing the story of Hadrian Marlowe. If you haven't heard of The Empire of Silence, you follow a character who is infamous in history for eradicating an entire alien race, as well as destroying a sun, and you get to follow him in his youth in figuring out how he got this legendary name, and you get it from his own mouth. So he's telling you his story. It's very fascinating. It's sci-fi fantasy, and I have really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, there are too many details for me not to reread the first 2 and continue on with this one. Speaking of a reread, I have another series that I will be rereading. This one I probably need to less than Empire of Silence, but I had the opportunity because one of my friends here on BookTube, Kirsten from the Reading Nymph, is actually rereading the series, and so I asked if she wanted a buddy, and I think that we're going to do that. So I'm hoping I will be able to finish the Winnowing Flame series next year. We're going to reread Ninth Rain and The Bitter Twins, which I have read both before. I think Kirsten might have only read the Ninth Rain, maybe not the Bitter Twins, and I have only not read The Poison Song, but I have to get back into this. I just talked about this as being one of my favorite fantasy series, my top fantasy series from the 21st century, so I'm not going to go into great depths of what the series is about, but essentially you have a world that is falling into chaos. There are some events that are happening in history that show that there's some dire things about to happen, and there are 3 characters that have to come together to figure out how to save the world. It's an absolutely fantastic series, and I'm excited to get back into it. Next is The Ember Blade, which was on my 24 in 2024, and I didn't get to it. It's sitting on my Kindle, so I own this one. I just don't physically own it, and it was described to me as a modern version of Lord of the Rings, which is why I wanted to read it in the first place, and because it's on my Kindle, it just kind of fell into a black hole, and so this is my reminder to myself that I do need to read it. Also from my 24 in 2024, I have Xanth by Piers Anthony. I really wanted to read a Piers Anthony this year, and unfortunately I just didn't get to it. I am still curious, but I think I might end up doing like a series where I read classics or modern classics of fantasy, because I forget about them, to be honest. Like, I'm so caught up in new releases or books that have been recommended to me that sometimes I forget about the classics that I really do want to read. It's not just that I feel like I need to read them, but I do want to read them to see kind of where some of the material in our new world fantasy books come from. Not saying that Xanth is one of those, but I've heard great things, and I would like to read it at some point. Next, another one on my 24 in 2024, and this is probably the only book on this list that I might never get to, because I just kind of think it passed its prime for me, and that is The Fairy Bargains of Prospect Hill. So if you've read this and you think I would like it, leave a comment letting me know that I should actually read this book, because I am thinking about just deleting this one from my TBR. All I remember about this is that it follows 2 sisters, I think there's 2 of them, who live in a world where bargaining with fairies isn't necessarily a great thing, and one of them ends up having to make a bargain with a fairy for some reason, ends up disappearing, and the other one goes to look for her. So it does sound fascinating, and I'm pretty sure it has Goblin Market stuff in it, but I just haven't heard anybody talk about it, so it's just not front of mind, and I think I might want to find some different source material for the Goblin Market that I might like better. Next is one I'm kind of embarrassed that I haven't gotten to yet, because I've owned it for more than a year now, and I should have picked it up as soon as I got it. And that is The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. So this was Secret Project number 4, and I think I just got cold feet on reading the Secret Projects. I've read all 3 of, 1, 2, and 3. I love Tress. I did not like the Frugal Wizard's Guide to Medieval England, I think. And then You Me and the Nightmare Painter was fine. It was cute, but it wasn't like an all-time favorite. And so I think I was just a little scared of this one because this is a Cosmere book and I want to love it. But for some reason, the vibes of the book, I'm like, is it going to be for me? And we'll see. I honestly don't know what it's about. I know that it's a Cosmere book. And I think it's a Cosmere book. I'll correct it on screen if it's not a Cosmere book, but I'm pretty sure that it is. And yeah, it's a beautiful edition. It has beautiful illustrations on the inside of it. I need to pick it up. That's all there is to it. An anticipated release that I didn't get to this year was The Girl in the Bog, and I actually read about 30 pages of this book during spooky season and just never picked it back up. Not because I wasn't enjoying myself, I think I wasn't in a physical TBR mood, and which is a bummer because I do think that this book is going to be good. So eventually when I could get it back from the library, I will pick it up again. In this, you follow a 2,000-year-old bog woman who is, I don't want to say woken up because she's been awake the entire time. You get to kind of live the first 30 pages that I got to see. You get to live a whole bunch of years with her being a woman who has died in a bog, or really was murdered in a bog. And you get to figure out how she interacts with the world around her. And it was very creepy. So I can only imagine what's going to happen when she actually gets to interact with the human world, which she was just getting into as I stopped picking up the book, but I am intrigued. I just didn't get to it. Also, another one from my 24 in 2024 is The Department of Sensitive Crimes. This I put on my list because I wanted to read more mysteries this year, and I think I was successful in that goal. I just, for whatever reason, didn't pick up this particular book. So I do think I will eventually get to this, especially because I have access to the audio on Libby, and I think it sounds like it's going to be a pretty fun audio, but for whatever reason, I prioritized other mysteries. I also have, this one's probably the most embarrassing because I've had it on so many TBRs, and this is the only book in my collection that I own 2 of. Can you guess which book it is? I still have not read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is the 1818 text, but I also have another edition that's not the 1818 text. It's actually a beautiful cover and everything, but I don't know why. This is another book that I've read some of. I read like 50 pages of it and I was liking it, but I put it down and I never picked it back up. I don't know what this new trend is with me. I need to stop it though, because I have books on my shelves I need to pick up. I don't think I need to describe to you what Frankenstein is because it's a classic, but I am curious to see what I will think about it. And because I have 2 editions, I could actually use this edition to annotate in. Maybe a project for 2025. Another 24 in 2024 book, I have the Posthumous Memoirs of Cubas, which is a classic, which is why I didn't get to it in 2024 because it intimidates the heck out of me. The only thing I know about this is that the main character is dead and is telling you their life story. They're supposedly a little bit snarky and they like to break the 4th wall, I think is what I've heard. I am curious. I really want to read it, but I am also very nervous that since it's a classic, I'm not going to like the writing style. But fingers crossed, we'll see. Another physical TBR book that I'm just being too lazy to get out of its collection bin is my H.P. Lovecraft collections. This is actually 6 books in one, but I need to read at least one of these next year. I've had this in my collection for 2 years now and have not picked up a single book of H.P. Lovecraft's that I have, and I would like to. And I think it's because for whatever reason, I have in my head that I need to read H.P. Lovecraft in October. And so every year when October passes me by and I still haven't picked it up, I don't think about it for another year. So maybe I will make a point in like summer of next year for Summerween to pick this up. And then if I don't, I will have a reminder that it's in my collection and maybe I'll actually pick it up in October. But I need to get to it because I would like to see where some of the horror creatures and monsters and some of my favorite tales have come from. So 2025 is the year. I also have the House of Frank that I haven't gotten to, and part of this is just accessibility. I did have it on Libby, but I ended up not being able to read it in time before it got taken back by the library. All I know about this is that it does involve grief. A woman who has kind of lost her way I think seeks employment at the House of Frank, which is the house of a monster who wears like little knitted sweaters and is kind of cute and has other people who work for him doing various tasks. And it's supposed to be like a ragtag group of people who work there. I don't know. It sounds like a warm hug of a book. If it can deliver, it should be amazing. And lastly, another anticipated release, also a physical TBR book, is Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel. So if you watched my fantasy standalones video where I talk about my top fantasy standalones, I mentioned Kai Kai because I absolutely love this author's writing, and that was their debut. And so the fact that they've written another book is phenomenal, which is why I purchased it. I also purchased this because I was supposed to read this for the Goddess Complex readathon in September, and I just ended up not getting to it. But I need to read it. I know I'm going to love it. I haven't picked it up, and I don't know why. This is featuring another Indian mythology story that I am not familiar with, which was the same as Kai Kai. And although they're different stories, but they're both Indian mythology based. And I'm curious. I want to know, I want to read more from this author, and so I'm glad that I have this in my collection, but I'm sad that I didn't get to it this year. So that is my 20 books that I am calling myself out on. Why did I not read these books in 2024? Who knows? Hopefully this will be a little bit of a kick in the butt and I will read these soon because I need to. They are all, I'm sure, phenomenal books. Have you read any of these? Do you think I should push any of them to the front of the line or maybe kick some of them to the curb? I would love to hear your thoughts on my list and your own call outs in the comments. Let me be your accountability buddy where I kick you in the butt and make sure that you're reading the books that you want to read. If you're not feeling chatty, you guys can just leave a flower emoji in the comments so I know that you're here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.